Good evening. It's 6 p.m., November 13th, 2024, and I'd like to open the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for this evening. I'd like to announce this meeting is being televised live on local cable channel 8 and channel 1072, which is a high-definition channel. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next. Does anyone have a public comment regarding anything not related to any agenda items tonight? If so, please check in with Mary Ann, 2 to my left, and you can have 3 minutes to make your comment. Anybody in the audience have anything that's not on the agenda? Great, thank you. At the end of every single presentation, I will ask for public comment. If for some reason I forget, feel free to raise your hand. We want to make certain that we hear from everyone that wants to speak. Next, Charlie, would you read the first hearing into the record? Actually, the continued hearing would be best.
Okay, the continued hearings. The first is 2 Ned Bessie Road. Owner Peter W. Salinas, trustee of the Salinas Realty Trust, requests a special permit under 174-17.1 and 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to raise a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling and replace it with a new single-family dwelling on property located in an R5 zoning district, map 21, parcel 2, Mashpee, Mass. Council is requesting a continuance until January 8th, 2025.
Counselor?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Attorney Christopher Carrain for Mr. Salinas. Yes, we are requesting a continuance to January 8th. We're still working through the revised plans with the engineer, as well as to address the other questions and comments that were raised by both the board and the abutter.
I presume you received a letter from the fire chief of this town. Was that Ned Bessie?
Yes.
Mary Ann?
I have been in communication with the fire chief, so it's likely we're talking about the same communication.
I presume we're talking about the same thing. I read that letter, and I'm very concerned about the letter, just so you let me know. All right, so you're asking for an extension. Does the board have a letter in reference to that?
We have a letter dated October 31st, 2024 to Mr. Bonvy from Christopher Carrain relative to 2 Ned Bessie Road. Dear Chairman Bonvy, as you know, we represent the owner of the property referenced above, requested that the hearing scheduled for Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 be continued until January 8th, 2025, as the applicant is still waiting for revised plans to come from the engineer to address concerns raised by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Can I get a motion to approve that request?
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Oh, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
We made short shrift of that one.
Easy enough.
Mm-hmm.
How's the weather, Joe?
Drizzle for 2 hours.
Starting now. Yeah.
Nice.
You.
What's the date?
Amsterdam.
13.
What's wrong?
This is really violent, too.
Okay, so sitting on the next meeting will be the 5 normal full-time members. Mike, would you like to read the next new hearing? 416 Monomoskoye to the record, please.
New hearings, 416 Monomoskoye Road. Owners Kirk John Franklin and Don Gordon Franklin. Trustees of the Seaside Realty Trust request a written finding under 174-17 and 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to allow for construction of an attached garage and deck to a pre-existing, non-conforming, single-family structure on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 124, parcel 47, Mashpee, Massachusetts.
I'm being corrected. I should not have used normal members. I should have used abnormal, I guess.
We're happy being abnormal.
We can have it any other way, Charlie.
Here's the stuff right here for you. That you actually get into.
That's mine.
Mark, are you okay with me?
Counselor.
Good evening again, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Attorney Christopher Corain, representing the applicants and owners of 416 Monomoskoye Road.
Do you have another copy? Is this it?
As noted in the hearing notice, we are seeking a alteration extension under 174-17 and 174-33 to alter a pre-existing non-conforming structure, which is shown on this plan. The structure is located in the R3 zoning district. As the board knows, your R3 zoning district requires 40,000 square feet of lot area, 150 feet of frontage, a 40-foot yard setback, 15 side and rear setbacks, 20% lot coverage max, and a 50-foot setback to wetland where applicable. In this particular case, we have a lot that is completely within the flood zone. So we have a nonconformity as to lot size, which would be 0 for zoning purposes. We have a nonconformity as to lot coverage, 100%, because of the lot being impacted by the flood zone. We also, it's nonconforming as to frontage, there's only 90 feet. And also importantly, we have a nonconformity to the front yard setback of 34.3 feet where 40 is required. So again, what the applicant is proposing is shown in green. It's a garage addition with a new deck. The addition will not create any new nonconformities, and it will not intensify any of the existing nonconformities other than the fact that, you know, lot coverage is expanding and we're in a flood zone. So, you know, technically there's an intensification there. The proposed addition will be 39.3 feet from the road, which is not closer than what's existing. Again, what's existing is 34.3. As a percentage of the total lot area, which is 22,530 square feet, your existing coverage by structures is 7.7%, and we'll be increasing that to 9.8%. So this addition roughly equates to a 472 square foot increase in coverage by structures. So again, there are no new nonconformities created. We are not intensifying the existing front yard setback. We're going to be further back than what's existing. There's no increase in the bedrooms. There is a dry well being added for stormwater management. This project has been approved by the Conservation Commission, and I would suggest, as I always do, I provide pictures to the board of the surrounding neighborhood. This is certainly consistent with development in the Monomoskoye Island area. Happy to answer any questions, but overall, I think we're not creating any new nonconformities. We're not intensifying the existing nonconformity to front yard, and it's a modest increase in coverage of structures that it would not be a condition that is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than what exists.
Charlie, would you read any letters of record into the record, please? If any of these exist? Or, Mike, why don't you do it? Do you have it?
Okay.
That's great.
Conservation comments? 416 Monomoskoye Road, resource areas, LSC, SF, and buffer zone to salt marsh. NOI application was approved unanimously with the condition of a 3-year mitigation and monitoring contract with a certified professional, and all certificate of compliance is achieved prior to construction commencement. Installation of dry wells to control roof runoff and a drain at the cobble apron, and the vast amount of mitigation plantings near the salt marsh will enhance the resource areas.
Any other letters?
Yeah, from David.
Feel free to read that then.
Okay. Hi, Mary Ann. Although I will need much more information on the permit application, it seems fairly obvious that this project meets the criteria of a substantial improvement. If deemed so, a permit cannot be granted as presented because it fails to meet requirements of 780 CMR 51 R105.3.1.1 and R322.
David, is that FEMA?
What does that state, that, David? What is that?
Well, can I just, why don't we just finish the letter, and then we'll go right to
I
David?
thought he finished.
Oh, is that the
There's
last
still-
letter?
there's still-
Well, there's
No,
one,
it's
there's a
Board of
comment
Health.
from the Board of Health.
Why don't we just read that, and then we'll go right
Okay.
to David?
416 Monomoskoye Road, Board of Health, house to remain 4-bedroom, 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second floor, third floor loft not fit for habitation.
Okay, so I would presume the board wants to hear from David, Wood, because he's got a key letter sitting out there, right? Yep. Per Jonathan's request.
What does all that mean? This
The,
particular bylaw that you quoted?
it's a building code, it's a 50% rule. I don't have enough information on that. But, you know, this could get through zoning, but I have a zoning issue that I would need to bring up. I just noticed on this. You get this 39.3 setback is non-conforming to the proposed addition, but the 34.3 is to the existing stairs, which is exempt from setbacks. That setback should be set to the corner of the existing house, not to the concrete wall in front of the existing house, to the foundation. And that may be at 40 feet, or it's very close to what's there. So that might create a new nonconformity. I think we need more information on that.
And counsel, I remain concerned in Jonathan's question and the rest of the board's question. If in fact the improvement value is in excess of 50%, correct me if I'm wrong, the building itself, the house, has to go up also, or comply with flood zone regulations.
Correct, they would have to-
Compliance, right?
Yes.
Everything has to go to.
Everything has to be in compliance, and
That
so,
is correct. But again, it's not that's David's department, so I have to, whether or not this board approves this, if this board approves this project, then I gotta go to David to get a building permit. He makes that decision at the building permit stage, because the client has to provide him with an appraised value of some sort and the construction costs. He could determine at that
but
time.
I think it's important you understand that in these motions, they have stated that any change to these plans, so if you change, reduce the footprint, increase the footprint, do anything to this plan, you're coming back.
No, absolutely, I don't think there's any issue
So
with that.
if David's inclination is that, well, although he's saying he needs more information,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that, you know, these things can, it's, all these departments, all these steps can be approved. I think that, again, I don't know, I don't think we have enough information on this.
well, the
this-
setback certainly concerns me even more now than the other one, but as one member, I sit here and say, it would seem to me I would get that valuation settled in the future before you come to us, because if the valuation doesn't work, you're coming back.
I don't think that's the way it works.
Yeah, I don't think so
The building
either. I
permit's
don't-
the last stage.
I'm okay with it, I'm not trying to say you have to.
If it gets through, which, you know, eventually, this will get through, I don't think it's gonna get
So
through.
how do we
tonight.
deal with the second issue, which is the setback?
Well, they go through the appeal period, they get approved by zoning how they
No, the
can.
setback to the stairs.
Street.
Oh.
How do we deal with that when in
That's
fact
good.
we have that?
We need to know if this is indeed conforming or not.
You gotta get a new,
Well, he'd have to do one of two things. He'd either have to give the distance to the foundation, which would give us that, or if those stairs, I believe with the way the bylaw reads, if those stairs protrude more than 4 feet, they're not exempt.
No, the bylaw, the stairs are exempt completely. The deck, the platform itself can go 4 feet
long as it doesn't have a covered
into
roof
the
over it.
setback.
Right, but if this
Stairs are
plat-
exempt.
But what I'm saying is if this platform that's shown here, this platform here, this deck is more than 4 feet. This entryway, that's greater than 4 feet, so we have to go to here. Not to necessarily the foundation, we're talking about this protrusion here. So this sticks out further.
That's a concrete wall. I mean, that's not the platform. The stairs go into the wall.
I can have the engineer give us that distance.
Well, the thing is, we're going to the exempt area. That doesn't give us where the house is set
So
back.
what you're saying then, David, is there may be
A zoning issue.
an addition of a new nonconformity,
That is correct.
Correct, and we don't have that information
which
yet.
is not good.
So, I got one more question. It's,
It'd be better though,
you quoted it off the,
if you're talking about.
what, 34.3?
Yeah, I used the distance that the engineer gave me of 34.9, which as David's pointing out, it comes to the bottom of these stairs.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, shouldn't the engineer know that the stairs aren't part of it?
He might not, because every town does it different. Some towns, that counts. This town, my experience, it doesn't, unless it was a roof structure. on it.
As I said, it depends, depending
Well,
on,
Falmouth Engineering's been here before.
Well, that's not our,
It certainly seems to me that we certainly have an issue with that, right? So, do, any other board questions? What I'd like to is go to the audience.
There's a new nonconformity I've got to,
Well, there's a possibility of a new non.
that's correct.
And that being said, okay, so any other board questions?
no, I just agree with Attorney Corain that the FEMA is a building issue, not a zoning issue.
I'm okay. I'm not gonna make an issue with that.
And I agree with that as well. I'm just trying to put it out
I
there.
mean,
that
if it would just be,
a-
I
An approval
would
from
try
this
to
board
at least
does
get a
not,
feeling for that before I go to this board.
If you didn't bring it up, I was gonna bring it up, because obviously I
Yeah.
can see what the project looks like, and
the applicant had a conversation over the summer with Dave, so they were aware that this could potentially come up.
Yeah,
But again,
all I'm saying is, and I get what you're saying, I would go to see David, at least get a feeling, because
Yeah, but
any
if
changes
it-
to the plan, you gotta come back.
we won't know. You can't go jump, you can't put the cart before the horse. You know what I mean? If it doesn't work out, they have to go back to the drawing board and come back to this board.
Anybody in the audience have any questions, or input, or questions in reference to this application? Yes, ma'am. Please come up to the mic, give your name and your involvement and your
Good
address. where
evening.
you
My
live.
name is Dawn Franklin. I am the owner, as well as my husband, of 416 Monomoskoye. So what we're trying to do is, in our mind, a pretty simple thing. The house is a very modest split-level house. We have 4 adult children, and the family's growing. So when you go into the house, there's one room, which is the kitchen, the family room, the office, and it's really tight for space. So our objective was to put a one-car garage so we could store kayaks, basically, paddle boards, and then have some living space. So the kitchen, which is everything, a family room, would be an actual kitchen, and the room above the garage would be used for a family room. So it's pretty simple where we're coming from, but from all the rules, that's why we look to you to ask permission. So this summer I went with the builder to see Dave, and he did explain the concern about the improvement. But we did hire someone who did a new appraisal on the property, which is much, much increased from the town's value. So we don't feel that's going to be an issue at all, because it's a very...
And I brought it up, and I am relying on the building, the zoning enforcement officer. I'm not at issue with that.
I understand. I
That's
just wanted to explain.
between you and the zoning enforcement officer. I'm
from-
okay with it. But just to give you a heads up, and I don't want to step in, you all set with that statement?
Yes,
I, as one member, if we can clarify this possibility of a new nonconformity, I'm not against your application, but we do have to confirm whether there is a new nonconformity being created. And if that's the case, I would have a problem, because I don't like to see new nonconformities being created. That being said, as one member, we need to get some more information.
I understand.
But I'm not against your application.
Thank you.
One member. That makes
Two
sense.
members.
I agree.
Yeah, I just, we need to get a little bit more information. So anyone, are you all set? I don't want to.
Would it be possible to say exactly what it is that you need, so we can come back to?
Yeah, your attorney will
Chris knows.
clearly understands what you need. Pretty easy to do, pretty easy work to do. And hopefully you're not creating new nonconformity. And if you are, maybe you want to redesign. But that's,
Right.
again, one member speaking.
There is a measurement to the new addition. It's the question of that corner there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
It's
that
close,
being
yeah.
said, Mr. Morris, do you have anything else?
No.
Board have anything else?
No.
Would you like to ask for an extension?
Yes, I would request a continuance to the December 13th meeting.
Does that work, Mary Ann? Could I get a motion to accept the applicant's counsel's request for December 13th meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
I think it's December 11th, not.
December 11th? Well, you come 13th, you'd be. December 11th, could I amend the motion, please?
So moved.
All right, do I have a
Second.
motion, December 11th?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, paper? Paper?
Documents.
Well, Chris is leaving. We can sign it before him.
Yeah, it sounds like.
Ready to go?
What does that mean? Am I able to come, you know?
Continue to when? The
It
11th?
might be parent.
12/11.
December 11th.
Then they gotta make it smaller.
I gotta look too.
They seem pretty confident that they've done the numbers.
That's all I will say.
It's gonna be close, though.
My trash bucket?
It's very close.
Very close.
I gotta read that.
Till next time.
We need signatures to
Take
it?
your time.
We're waiting for Mary Ann.
I just-
Hey, everybody, we're waiting for Mary Ann.
Oh,
Just-
that, that's not gonna get you any points thrown around.
I know, I'm just,
That's just not gonna
we
work.
have to have fun.
I don't know. I wouldn't have done it, Bill. Would you have done it? No. No way.
That's all right.
George, you wouldn't have done
Come on with the second one now.
it.
That's for Chris to sign.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know longer.
Oh,
I follow directions.
Yeah, we can embarrass him.
I got a postcard that Aldi's is opening tomorrow.
She sets the table pretty well, doesn't she?
Is that a good thing I've never been in Aldi?
Oh, it's good, very, very good.
Well,
All this
see,
stuff is high
It's
quality.
gonna be easier than Trader Joe's.
No price.
what's that?
Basically the same as Trader
Yeah, it
Joe's.
opened
Pretty
today.
much the same. They're competition.
They're very good.
Yeah, they're related.
It's brothers.
Yeah.
Your brothers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
With Trader Joe's.
They just opened the
I like
pizza one
Trader
by-
Joe's better, but Aldi's is
different.
more
It's different.
I heard Trader Joe's
convenient.
is better though, no?
Oh, I've never been in one.
I like Trader
I
Joe's
like
better,
Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
I wish Trader Joe's went in what they're supposed to.
but I don't like going to Hyannis.
they would have been able to. Anyway.
Okay, Bill, you need to redo your date on this.
Would I change it?
Put a Trader
waiting on
Joe's in
Billy now.
Mashpee Commons.
Well, I just don't everybody.
11,
Gonna be somewhere?
I do. No.
What did I put?
4. You put
I
12,
gotta leave at 5:30.
whatever the,
Whatever.
continue to.
Yes.
That's all right.
Yes.
You're good.
All right. Morris, would you like to read 80 Whippoorwill into the record, please?
Sure. Owner Stanley H. Hargis, trustee of the Stanley H. Hargis 2004 Trust, requests a written finding under Chapter 174-17 and Chapter 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to allow to lift a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling onto a FEMA-compliant foundation in the same footprint, add an attached garage and an addition on piers on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 125, parcel 185, Mashpee, Massachusetts.
It's a corner.
If you could give your name and your involvement, please, sir.
Good evening, Chair Bonvy and members of the board. For the record, Attorney Michael Schultz on behalf of Stanley and Nina Hargis. With me this evening, I have our engineer, Chuck Rowland of Cape and Islands Engineering. The Hargises have petitioned for a written finding under sections 174, 17, and 33 to allow for the existing dwelling to be raised out of or lifted out of the AE flood zone, and that is in particular land subject to coastal storm flowage. The existing property, 80 Whippoorwill, is non-conforming with respect to lot area. It contains 15,901 square feet, where 40,000 is required. Lot coverage is non-conforming. We're at 100%. The AE flood zone is deemed to be a wetland under the Mashpee bylaw. And we have a side yard setback being non-conforming. A portion of the existing deck is located 11 feet, where 15 feet is required. The property was developed in 1985 according to Mashpee assessing records, as shown on the plans prepared by Cape and Islands Engineering and Testa Engineering Associates. The Hargises are proposing to lift that dwelling into FEMA compliance, so it would be coming out of the flood zone and to an elevation of 14.1 feet, I believe, which would allow for, they would add flood vents, they would add a one-car garage to grade with flood vents, and they would construct an addition on piers for an addition to the kitchen and the family room. That work would result in 640 square feet of additional space, and it would comply with all of the setbacks. So presently, we're not conforming with an 11-foot. We will remove that nonconformity and bring that into compliance. Section 174-17 does authorize this board to issue a specific finding in relation to the alterations, extensions, or changes to a nonconforming structure where such alterations are not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing. I would respectfully submit to the board that lifting and bringing that structure into compliance, into flood zone compliance, would be an improvement. Would also submit to the board that bringing it into compliance as far as the side yard setback from an 11-foot encroachment, we're bringing it into compliance on that side yard with a 15-foot setback. Based on those facts, I would respectfully submit that the board could make those findings if you so choose, and would forgot to mention at the beginning, we did have conservation approval on October 24th, so we have been through conservation. Thank you, and should you have any questions, please let us know.
Charlie, could you read letters into the record, please?
Sure. Conservation comments for 80 Whippoorwill, resource area LSCSF and buffer zone to salt marsh. NOI application was approved unanimously with the condition of a 2-year mitigation and monitoring contract with a certified professional, with the installation of multiple dry wells to control roof runoff, installation of multiple flood vents, reduction of driveway area, and conversion of driveway area to native planting beds will enhance resource area's natural function. I don't have the building, okay, here we go. Thank you. Board of Health comments on 80 Whippoorwill Circle. Board of Health, house to remain 4-bedroom, 1 on the first floor and 3 on the second floor. And I believe that's all that we have.
Is that it? Board questions?
One, looking at the house plans, it doesn't have anything about the height of the house, how it meets the average grade. Is Mashpee 30 or 35?
35, I think.
35, this is Whippoorwill.
I mean Whippoorwill. Is that 30 or 35?
35.
35. They need to note it on the plans, what it is from average grade.
Is it close, you
What's
think?
it currently?
So, we do have, 2-story, we called it to be 2 stories existing and proposed, but we can make sure that it meets the required height. I do believe that I ran through that.
It doesn't look like it's gonna be, I don't think it's gonna be way over.
Not over
But it's hard to
35.
tell when you raised it. I don't know what the average, looking at this house plan, I don't know what the average grade is. So it'd be good, they should note it on the plan anyway. Usually, typically, the architects will note it on the plan where the 35, they'll do a dotted line where the 35 is and show where the house lands. So it's just something that
I've
could be
discussed it with
conditioned on
the
that.
architect, but we'll make sure that we
Is
review.
conditioned okay with you?
I'm fine with
I'm
conditioning
good
it,
with
yeah, 'cause
conditioning.
What's,
David's not gonna pass it if it comes
Right.
in higher anyway.
It's over than
how
35.
much are
he
you
won't.
raising it?
So we're
Talking
going
about
from,
14 feet?
11.5 to 14.1, the first floor.
Well, 4 feet, 3.5, 4 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably fine, but it needs to be,
And they're gonna have to get by David with that, anyway.
Yeah, we probably condition it during, before the frame that we confirm the height.
So,
there's experience out there on that road where someone built one too tall.
I hear horror stories at my office.
so if someone's asked to make a motion, make sure that in that motion, it's certification of the, maximum height?
Condition it that it's not more than 35 feet.
Let me say
Question.
something. I think when this stuff was sent out, I believe there was some sort of an attachment that verified the height, but I couldn't find any
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
notes on it.
I didn't see it.
On
just-
the, it was an
It just needs the
attachment.
architect just to note it on the plan, that's all. It's fairly simple, it's just,
No, there was an attachment about the height. And I looked at it.
on
This
the engineer's
afternoon.
plans or the house plans?
No, it's not on the house plans.
Do an attachment, I guess.
A separate attachment
I'm not gonna read
came
this
out,
whole thing to
but
find it.
I could not find the
Separate
height
attachment?
on there.
From Cape and Islands?
I think it came from Mary Ann.
Oh,
Well, why don't we continue looking for that? I have one question while we're looking, is that okay? So are you creating any new nonconformities?
We are not. And we're improving one of the nonconformities with the setback. We're bringing that into compliance with the side yard setback.
Okay. Any other board questions? Mary Ann, you'll continue to look for that?
Yeah,
Charlie,
I have one, and it's for my own edification. In the plans, S12, it talks about the smart vent foundation detail. And my question is, I don't know what that is. I know what its purpose is. Could you very briefly explain what that is and how that works?
Sure, so a smart vent is, to my knowledge, the only approved flood vent that I've ever seen. But essentially,
Yeah.
a flood vent has to be able to open and close without human intervention. And so what it does is it has a little bit of foam in there, and so, you know, when this magical storm happens, it comes up, and it floats off of a hinge, so that way it doesn't just flap in the breeze, but it floats up, and then if there's water already in the house and the water's receding, it lets it out, or as the storm water comes in, it lets it in the house. So that way it doesn't build up any hydrostatic pressure and push the foundation over.
Thank you. I just didn't know what it was and how it worked.
Any other
has to be
board
on
questions?
Two walls.
Yep.
They can't be all on the same wall, they have to be on two different walls.
David, questions?
Well, I just want to say that as far as I was concerned on the last project of the substantial improvement, I want to say that this should be the poster boy for what you do in a state of substantial improvement. Your client came in and talked to me and got all the information he needed to make this conform for in the flood zone.
It certainly
He was a
takes all-
pleasure. He was a pleasure to work with.
It certainly
And
takes
he-
all the gray area out of it, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
and he consulted floodplain specialists to work with and make this design work exactly the way it should be. And as you said, it's good for the neighborhood, it's good for the town of Mashpee, it's good for the state, eventually good for the world. So I think this is a champion project, and I look forward to it, seeing it done.
That is great to hear. Thank you, David.
Audience
They don't even
input.
say that much. Like never.
Anyone
This
in
is
the
the
audience
first
have anything
one
to
I've
say
ever
about
seen
this
that was-
application? Okay, back to the board. Any board questions?
No.
Nope.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing, please.
So moved.
I get a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion in reference to the application, please.
You want me to- That's you. Okay.
It's you, Charlie.
All
I
right,
can't do that.
Make a motion relative to 80 Whippoorwill Circle. Owner Stanley W. Hargis, trustee of the Stanley M. Hargis, Stanley M. Hargis, trustee of the Stanley M. Hargis 2004 Trust. Requests a written finding under 174-17, 174-33 of the zoning bylaws to allow to allow to lift a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling onto a FEMA-compliant foundation in the same footprint. Add an attached garage in addition on piers on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 125, parcel 185, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. Motion. Number one, the board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a written finding under Mass General Laws 40A, Section 6. Number two, site plan prepared for Stanley Hargis, project 80 Whippoorwill Circle, Mashpee, Mass. Date September 13th, 2024. Prepared by Cape and Islands Engineering. Stamped and signed by Charles Rowland, registered civil engineer, number 52699. And Matt Costa, professional land surveyor, number 52282. 3, 80 Whippoorwill Circle, A1, existing floor plans. A2, existing elevations. A3, proposed floor plans. A4, proposed elevations. A5, proposed elevations. Date 8/15/24, prepared by Testa Engineering Associates. Number 4, conditioned on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the Conservation Department and Board of Health. Adding number 5, also conditioned on ultimate construction height of structure being confirmed to be less than 35 feet
From average grade.
from average grade.
Yeah, before any construction.
Okay. Number 6, any changes to the plans will require the applicant to return to this board. And number 7, the board finds it under 174-17 and 174-33 that the proposed project is not substantially more detrimental than the pre-existing non-conforming structure or use to either the town or the neighborhood. I think that's it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye. Well done.
Well done.
Very well done.
Thank you very much.
Paper? Dead trees?
What's the name of that author? Parker?
That's the dead trees. I don't know.
Gotta do it right.
Robert B.
You did a very good job back there.
Started from
You were losing her toward the end.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah, excellent. Maybe I'll take that.
You can. Yeah, you can get almost all of them
Here we go.
from the library. No charge.
No charge?
There you go.
Great deal.
More trash.
Last 5 days. 300 books. No charge.
Oh, Mary.
Very good.
Where's this one?
Seen that lawyer before.
Oh,
haven't.
someone passed it, that's what it is. I'm like,
That's junk paper that I handed you.
okay, yeah, well, that was
Multitasking.
Interesting choice by
confused me.
I saw that.
Okay, George, would you read 125 Surf Drive into the record, please?
125 Surf Drive, owners Daniel G. Kirkland and Deborah A. Kirkland, trustees of the Kirkland 2014 Family Trust, request a written finding under sections 174-17 of the zoning bylaws to raise a single-car garage and replace it with a new two-car garage attached to an existing single-family dwelling located on property, located in R3, R-3, and Seabrook Village, cluster subdivision, map 102, parcel 1, Mashpee, Mass.
Good evening. Again, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Attorney Christopher Corain, representing the applicant, the Kirklands, for their project at 125 Surf Drive. What this is a proposal under 174-17 to, again, alter, extend a pre-existing non-conforming structure. We have no flood zone, so there's no issues with any conservation or flood zone. What they're proposing is a front entryway here, which doesn't affect our zoning issues, but they're also proposing this garage, which is currently, that side of the house is non-conforming. So, as the hearing notice said, we are in the R3 zoning district. However, we are subject to the cluster subdivision rules and regulations and permit for Seabrook Village. So those requirements are a little bit different than your R3. So for the Seabrook Village cluster, your minimum lot size is 15,000 square feet. Your frontage is 75 feet. Your front yard setback is 30 feet. Your side setback is 15. Your rear is 20. And there is a 30% max lot coverage for the Seabrook Village cluster. So it's a little bit different from what's allowed in the R3 zoning district. So we do have two nonconformities for this project. One is the front yard set. We also front on two roads. So we front on Sandy Way and we front on Sandy Way. We are currently nonconforming to Sandy Way at 22.9 feet, and we're currently nonconforming to the rear yard set, what I consider a rear yard setback, to Sandy Way of 17.8. So those are your two nonconformities. So again, what we're proposing are these two additions to the house. They, current lot coverage is 14.1%. The proposed lot coverage is 16.6%, so well under the 30% that's allowed under the Seabrook Village cluster. There are no new nonconformities being created. However, we are proposing to intensify this nonconformity from 22.9 to 19.1, so a little over 3 feet. You know, given the fact that we're on two roads, it's a really uniquely shaped lot. You know, unfortunately, there isn't a lot of room for us to, you know, do the project as we want without having to increase that nonconformity. You know, generally speaking, this board has been somewhat lenient when we front on two roads, given that you have to meet the two larger setbacks. If it was a side yard setback, we'd only have to be 15 feet. But, you know, given that, you know, we are going to be, have to meet 30 feet on both sides. So, again, generally speaking, the board has been somewhat lenient in allowing us to encroach a little bit further when we front on two roads. So that's the only setback that's being affected. You know, the slight increase, we're going to meet lot coverage. We're meeting, not changing or intensifying any other setbacks, and we're not creating any new nonconformities. So, and again, this is, you know, this two-car garage is not unusual in the Seabrook Village cluster. So with that, I'm happy to answer any of the board's questions.
Charlie, letters, please. Or Mike or someone who will.
I've got the conservation, nothing.
No conservation.
I have nothing from the,
I got Board of Health right there.
Board of, okay, got it, sir.
125 Surf Drive, Board of Health, change of footprint requires the Title V inspection. Storage area above garage is not fit for human habitation. It is not a bedroom. Tank is 40-plus years old and should not have a hot tub on it. Just reading what I read.
No, I understand. I'll just clarify. The hot tub is not connected to the septic, and it's not even have any water in it. I think my clients are intending just to get rid of the thing.
If you were asked to make a motion, Charlie, you might want to include that as a specific issue, conservation, Board of Health letter.
Yep.
Is that the extent of letters? Okay, board questions?
Any reason why you just can't move the garage back 3 feet? There's plenty of room in the backyard.
I think that-
Stagger it.
Well, I mean, I just don't think, you're trying to do a two-car garage, and you want it to be flush. So if you stagger it, you know, they're trying to make a clean box there, right? You know, I think, you know, in this particular case, again, where you have this kind of uniquely shaped lot, they're trying to keep this as kind of a one square unit, you know, and that's why they went with that proposal.
I think you also might be bumping into the shed if you do that.
Shed or the patio. will have to-
What were you saying, Mark?
I think you're also bumping into the shed if you stagger it back.
Yeah, but the shed can move.
Very close to it.
Well, let's all talk it separately. So Morris, what were you saying, please?
I was saying that if you stagger it back a bit, you're getting very close to the shed or bumping into the shed. Personally, I'm not bothered by it, you know, looking appealing to the eye, just being a straight box.
Scott, what did you have to say?
Architecturally, it is more of a challenge to build it step back. It can be done. It's not ideal for a garage to have it step back a couple feet. And I look at it as that distance is what?
They're going
19-1.
22.9
22
to
point
19.
something going to
no,
19
go
there.
19.
They're getting 3+ feet closer.
Yeah, I mean, it's an odd-shaped lot, and it's a house is sitting on it oddly. I look at it as a hardship, as lot
And,
size.
and if we weren't on 2 rows and that was a side yard, we'd only have to be 15 feet off.
Yeah.
Right. Any other board questions? Okay. David?
I just said, you got 2 front setbacks, you're saying that there's no side setback, there's just two rear setbacks?
Yeah, I always look at it, when you have 2 front yards, you have 2 rears, so you don't have sides.
Okay.
Do you concur with that conclusion?
It's good enough, you know?
You're the boss.
Yeah, I mean.
You're the boss.
It
It's
makes
not.
it makes it
Oh,
tougher,
not?
but it's a stronger setback.
Right, yeah, and this, because it's the.
And I really don't have an issue with the garage being flush. They're allowed to do that.
Okay.
It's up to the board.
Audience input. Anybody in the audience have any questions or concerns? Yes, ma'am. Could you state your name and your involvement and address, please?
My name is Susan Regan, and I live across the street from 125 at 124, and my interest here is Seabrook Village is a cluster zoning with a lot of beautiful homes in it. This board has given many, many decisions for folks to be able to tweak their properties to be a little bit better. Gentleman next to me had to come to the board to get a 3-foot variance. I myself had to get a 3-inch variance because a marker got moved when the house was built. But I know these folks, and I know the property. It will enhance the neighborhood.
So you're in favor of
I
this?
am in favor of the Kirklands improving their property.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Another. Name and address and your involvement in the project, if at all?
Lynn Barbie, 73 Surf Drive. I am the vice chair of our homeowners association, and I live right down the street from the Kirklands. And I'm here to say that they came to our homeowners association, let us know about this, and the entire board of the association supports this project.
So you're in favor of it?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Any other board questions? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Motion to close the public hearing?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to get a motion in reference to the application, please.
Got it. 125 Surf Drive, owners Daniel K. Kirkland and Deborah A. Kirkland, trustees of the Kirkland 2014 Family Trust. Request a written finding under 174-17 of the zoning bylaws to raise a single-car garage and replace it with a new 2-car garage attached to an existing single-family dwelling on property located in an R3 and Seabrook Village Cluster Subdivision, map 102, parcel 1, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. Number 1, motion number 1. The board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a written finding under Mass General Laws 40A, Section 6. 2, site plan, prepared for Kirkland 2014 Family Trust, Daniel and Deborah Kirkland, 125 Surf Drive, date May 31, 2024, drawn by MD, checked by MC, prepared by Cape and Islands Engineering, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet. Number 3, new addition remodeling for Kirkland residents, 125 Surf Drive, Mashpee, Mass, prepared by Katuitt Bay Design, LLC, scale 1/4 inch equals 1 foot, date 9/30/2024. Conditioned on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the Conservation Department and Board of Health. Specifically relating to Board of Health, that the change of footprint requires a Title V inspection, that the storage area above the garage is not fit for human habitation and is not a bedroom. And the tank is 40 years old and should not have a hot tub on it. Number 6, condition that the applicant seek and obtain the building department review in reference to the tree bylaw, Chapter 175 of the town bylaws, prior to the application of a building permit. And number 7, the board finds that under 174-17, that the proposed project is not substantially more detrimental than the pre-existing non-conforming structure or use to either the town or the neighborhood.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All set.
Yep.
I'm here for you, Ron.
Thank you very much. I don't know what I'd do without you.
I still have Mary Ann. One more's coming.
Yeah. Yep.
No screaming, no yelling.
Nice to see people come support instead of,
Yeah. That was very nice.
yeah, you don't see that too often
It's good to
either.
see that, yeah.
You don't see
Yeah.
that. Usually it's
The
opposition.
other way, yeah.
Very nice.
Morris, would you like to read 24 Secaucet Point into the record, please?
Sure. Owners Joshua and Nicole Dullman requested variance under Chapter 174-31, land space requirements, and Chapter 174-33, setback to wetlands, of the zoning bylaws to vary the front, side, and rear setbacks, lot size, and frontage requirements to allow for construction of a single-family residence on property located in an R3 zoning district, map 124, parcel 35, Mashpee, Massachusetts.
Counselor.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Again, Attorney Christopher Corain representing the applicant in this particular case. I just have two quick things. One is I am requesting a continuance. The project was recently approved by the Conservation Commission, but that has necessitated changes from the plans that were originally submitted to this board. So those plans were not ready for tonight. So we're asking for a continuance to December 11th. The second point, I talked to Mary Ann about this. My application is only seeking a variance for lot coverage and the setback to wetlands. I'm not asking for front yard setback, side yard setback, rear yard setback. So I just want the board to know that, and so it's clear.
But you're asking for lot coverage variance,
Correct.
okay? Understood, I
Lot
guess.
coverage variance.
That's what he said.
Yes, because the lot is completely in the flood zone, and it has no structure on it, so it is,
Yeah.
cannot be a raise and
So
replace.
he's coming, this is one of the first applications we've seen.
The first.
With nothing built on a lot that's totally within a floodplain that is asking for total relief.
We've actually had a couple in the last few years.
I don't think we ever had.
No, this is a vacant
No,
lot.
I've never brought
A
that.
vacant lot,
How about 37 Nick Trail?
no. That house, I don't
37
think
Nick
it's not.
Trail was requesting to
Vacant
unmerge,
lot,
right,
correct?
but we were asking to unmerge them.
Yeah.
And it didn't, I would have come to the board with that request, but I had to get them unmerged first.
190 Monomoskoye?
190.
I don't think so.
3 years ago?
No. I think this is the first one.
It was the one where they,
Yeah, but it's, that one was
the
before
one
that.
where they, it was on the water,
Yeah, I know which one.
and they wanted to build something other than a house.
Correct. They wanted to build a,
Is that the garage?
I thought this was the first, it
you
it
remember
really
that?
doesn't matter, I guess, but I'm just letting you know that he's asking for a variance, he will be asking for a variance
Changes
to allow
to
the
the
construction of a
foundation.
house on a vacant.
I think they like.
We know the
That new
criteria for
rule, I think
variance.
it's since the
Detached
new rule.
garage, there are a couple minor.
All right, so you're asking, so could you please
Continuous.
put your request in verbally again, please?
Yes, based on my letter, I'm requesting a continuance to December 11th.
Could you read the letter into the record, please?
I have it here. November 8, 2024, to Mr. Ronald Bonvy, relative to 24 Secaucet Point Road. Dear Chairman Bonvy, as you know, we represent the owner of the property referenced above. It is hereby requested that the hearing scheduled for Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 be continued until December 11th, 2024, as the applicant is still waiting for revised plans to come from the architect. Thank you for your attention. Very truly yours, Chris Corain.
Could I have a motion in reference to the letter, please? So we have, I guess, a second.
And so
How's that?
moved,
Motion?
yep.
That was a motion.
Second, yeah.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right, so you have to sign a piece of paper, right?
I do.
So you're gonna be setting some precedents here.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say which way, I just said precedents. Well, I think there's some others in the pipeline someday.
I was here for those, I don't remember those.
Well, somebody had to be first, might as well.
I may be absent that night.
No, you're not.
Case law in the making right here, right?
Whoa.
I don't want to be sued.
We have one more, don't we?
That's it.
37 Nick Trail. Some building in the flood zone. And they wanted to separate it, put houses.
Yeah, but that was the whole merger thing, wasn't that different?
They tried to unmerge it and do it.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot we're sharing.
Wanted to separate the lot and build a house.
There you go.
Different because it's separated.
No, it goes that way.
Oh, yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll be stepping down on the next one, so I will be departing.
Oh, I didn't know about
Hey, it's
this.
nice talking to you all.
Thanks for running out.
I may or may not see you December 10th.
11th.
11th.
Is that a promise?
I may
That's on the
come, I
11th.
may just come December 13th.
Is that a promise or a threat?
Yeah.
Happy sailing.
Enjoy.
You have my white book, right, Mary Ann?
I do.
All right, you leaving?
I'm leaving. It's all up to you.
All right.
Make me proud.
George, would you like to read the next hearing?
14 Bank Street, petitioner Mashpee Commons Limited Partnership requests a modification to an existing special permit, SP-86-04-024, to allow for repurposing the use of an existing building located on a property in the C-1 zoning district, map 74, parcel 24, Mashpee, Mass.
Hello.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. My name is Tom Ferranti. I'm here on behalf of Mashpee Commons Limited Partnership. Since 1986, Mashpee Commons has been operating under in conformance with Special Permit 86-04-24. We are now seeking a minor revision to that plan to address actual built conditions, certain square footage of commercial space and residential units, and actual built conditions for parking facilities. The modification, the revision is allowed under the zoning district, and we are asking that the board approve such changes. The specific request is related to Building 25. It's located at 14 Bank Street. It's an existing building. It's 2,950 square feet. For those that are familiar with Mashpee Commons, you may remember that it was a bank. It has been a bank for many, 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 many years. We are now proposing that the use of that bank be changed to a food use. So rather than a bank with a drive-through, it would be a food use with a drive-through. The square footage would not change. We would take the opportunity. This is the current condition of the building. The drive-through is on this side. The bank, because of the location of the drive-through window, the bank actually queued on the back side of the building, which brought the driver in such that the driver's window is on the wrong side of the car in relation to where the window is on the building.
That's convenient.
It only allowed for a queuing of 2 cars here before it bled out into the drive aisle. So with this proposed change, we are suggesting that we reconfigure the building, again, not changing any of the square footage, but relocating the drive-through such that we bring the window to the other side of the building. So instead of having all of the infrastructure, including the drive-through window, on the east side of the building, we relocate the window to the west side of the building so that the cars would actually be able to pull in the direction that they want to come in based on access to and from the site, would make their way around the building so that the drive-through window is now on the correct side of the vehicle. This allows for proper queuing to show up in the space without ultimately getting out into the drive aisle, and certainly it's a very far away from being out onto any of the town roads. I did meet with the fire chief and the deputy fire chief to review this plan to make sure that there were no concerns or issues that they saw. They did not have any concerns with what we presented. We do not have a tenant lined up for this space. This is a preemptive measure to make it a more attractive building. It's been vacant for a couple years. We've had a handful of temporary tenants that have floated through there, but there are no banks that are interested in opening up facilities now, and so we are trying to make it a more attractive location for other potential uses. In conjunction with this, we have contemplated the addition of some outdoor seating area, but pretty much all of that would be addressed through the building permit process with the building commissioner if and when we have a tenant that comes through. The purpose of this is to change the use so that we are allowed to do the food use with a drive-through. We're not changing any of the total square footage. The 2,950 square feet is staying as is, so the total gross square footage that is allowed under our special permit, 356,643 square feet, is not changing. We are modifying the parking layout. Again, going back to the current condition, it is set up such that there is only parking adjacent to the building on the side. There's nothing in the front of the building. As we bring the drive-through around to the other side, we are changing it so that we have some parallel parking on the side of the new drive-through aisle exit, but we're creating a condition where we have head-in parking at the front of the building, which we believe makes a better condition for the accessible parking space at the front of the building as opposed to the side of the building. It does result in a net decrease of 1 parking space. We're going from 9 parking spaces in this area to 8 parking spaces. But as you can see in the documentation submitted, we are still left with an excess of 51 parking spaces based on our zoning requirement for parking calculation in Mashpee Commons. Changing from bank use to a food use also has an impact on our wastewater. There is an increase to the total amount of flow. We are assuming a base number of seats that might be in this facility, and for wastewater, for food use, it's based on the number of seats, not on the square footage. But again, as demonstrated in the documentation provided, we are well under the threshold of our existing wastewater treatment facility. We would still have roughly 89,000 gallons available, even accounting for the increased usage with this space. We believe that this makes a more aesthetically pleasing, a more functional space with these changes, and we certainly hope that the board agrees with that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Would the building keep, like, I'm thinking, if you put a McDonald's in there, they're going to want to change the facade of the building. Are you going to make sure that it's in keeping with what's already at Mashpee Commons?
Absolutely. One of the benefits of being the landlord is we get to have ultimate control over what happens. We tend to not like too many modifications to the exterior of our buildings. We think we do a pretty good job with the design of our buildings, but we understand that there are certain tenants that have certain designed trademarks that they like to bring in, so we try and work with them as much as we can. But yes, it is very much something that we consider and something that we take factor of when we're reviewing and approving things.
How many seats are you planning for?
We are right now just assuming 50 seats inside. The building itself is 2,950 square feet, but only roughly 1,900 square feet is on the first floor. There is some square footage in the basement that's included in the total. So we assumed 35 square feet per seat and just came up with a rough number that we could use as the basis for our calculations to demonstrate wastewater compliance.
Okay, so 50 seats in a restaurant requires how many parking spots?
Our parking calculation is 4 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet.
I
So
thought it was based on on seats.
Not our special permit. Our special permit is based on square footage for all uses, except for residential, which is based on the number of the unit. And if you have the information submitted, if you go to the parking calculation, which is part of what's submitted, at the bottom of the parking calculation spreadsheet, part of what we include is the zoning required calculation for each one of the uses. And for retail and restaurant, it's 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet. Office is 3 spaces per 1,000 square feet. Theater is 3 per 100 seats over 450 seats, and residential is 2 per unit. That's fairly consistent with the commercial center bylaw. If this were a standalone restaurant, I believe that's different, but I don't know what the exact parking calculation is for something.
So it doesn't matter where the parking spots are?
No, all the parking in
customer
Mashpee
might have
Commons
to
is,
walk
correct.
on the other side of the,
Right, every parking space in Mashpee Commons is a shared parking space. We
Bobby
don't,
Burns, there's no spots in front of
yeah,
it.
so what we demonstrate every time we come to this board is that we have a total number of parking spaces to satisfy the total square footage and total residential units that we have throughout Mashpee Commons. So, yes, you could want to go to Pottery Barn and you're parking over by Starbucks. You might want to go to Asia and you're parking up by Day Off. But there is parking space, there is a parking space for each use.
Because it's very congested there, because I went to Verizon during the summer and had a hard time finding a parking spot over in that area.
Jonathan hates it when I say this, but a lack of parking is a good thing to have. The last thing the town wants is for, but you know what, I will say, it's less and less with each passing year. You know, we still only have maybe 10 days out of the year where every parking space is full. It's that cloudy, overcast day in July when everyone is here. There may not be a parking space right in front of the store that I want to go to, but I can find a parking space. But the last thing the town wants is for us to have a giant empty field of parking on the day after Thanksgiving.
And I can attest to the lack of appeal of this site as a bank use. I used to work for a former tenant, TD Bank there, so I still do, which I don't believe it makes me, puts me at any kind of conflict of interest in speaking so, but as a community member, I'd rather see a use that employs local folks in the community than having an empty building, notwithstanding the issues over parking. I can attest to the issues with that drive-through nonsense that made absolutely no sense to the customers. And I think this is a good idea to repurpose, and hopefully a tenant suitable for this use will be found.
Can I ask, the prospective tenant, do you envision the prospective tenant to be primarily an eat-in restaurant or a drive-through restaurant?
You know, it's hard to say right now. There's a little bit of both. I mean, we have a handful of tenants that have other locations where, not in Mashpee Commons, but other locations in their brand where they have a drive-through but also a dine-in facility. There are food uses that are predominantly drive-through that have very minimal seating. So we're trying to provide for as much flexibility as we can so that we end up with somebody that wants to take the space.
I know the Little Wendy's that's down on 28. It's primarily a drive-through, I think, even though it has some.
Yeah. You know, it was interesting watching how the market went during COVID. It went almost exclusively to drive-through with very little seating inside. And we've now shifted back where people are recognizing that opportunity to get together and meet and have face-to-face means something, even if it's 30 or 40 seats inside.
Tom, I always thought, as soon as that bank went out, I'm like, Starbucks is gonna move over there. Why would Starbucks not wanna have a drive-through? Because it's such a tight location with Starbucks.
They
people
might.
Go in and out.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for me, I don't have to get too involved in the leasing stuff until it gets to a point where we start talking about plans and permitting and all that
Seems like
stuff,
It
but
just seems to make more sense for Starbucks, where it's so hard to park there and get a coffee. And you got competition right down the road.
yeah.
I would just think it's.
And it may happen that way, that they relocate there and they, put somebody else on that corner spot where
Yeah.
Starbucks is today.
I have a question, actually, it's for David. Why is he coming for a change of use? There's already restaurants in there.
But that building.
That building.
It's a freestanding building.
And, the building was, it's
was
complete
further back.
change of use.
And it's
So
also,
it's an allowed use, isn't it?
it is,
It's an
but
allowed use.
because we are changing the use and altering the parking facility, it's up to the purview of this board, because we're changing the parking layout. Now, changing the parking layout, as we've demonstrated, does not impact the overall compliance with our site, but it is changing the parking layout.
Tom, was the consideration for the accessible parking, it's one and now it remains one?
Correct.
Is there any consideration, what, is that justified in this change?
So there is one existing one at the building, and our thought was that we would simply relocate that one to a different location. As you know, handicap parking spaces are a function of the total number of parking spaces throughout the site. We already have more handicap parking than is required, so we don't really want to relocate from someplace else because we like having somewhat of a distribution throughout, so depending upon where someone wants to go, there is hopefully an accessible space available for them.
Now, so you're saying that the parking, even the accessible parking is throughout?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how is that calculated?
It's a function of the total number of parking spaces. So we have roughly 1,100 parking spaces. I think based on that calculation, we're required to have 10 or 11 handicap parking spaces, and I think we have 14. And so we take that number, and again, we distribute it throughout the site so that we try and get as close to every common corridor for pedestrian access as we can.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Anyone else have any questions?
No, I think it's a great idea to put
do too.
it. I look forward to another restaurant coming in there. I'm not thrilled about a McDonald's, because I don't.
No, well, I'm thinking, say it was a McDonald's, is that gonna back up traffic on 151 and 28 at lunchtime?
It's far enough away where it would take a
Yeah.
queue of, more than 50 cars before it would bleed out onto a public roadway. We have talked about, if we ever got to a point where, depending upon the use, there are ways for us to route the queuing through our existing parking lot where it would impact us well before it would
The
impact
bank
any
had a
town.
lot, there was a lot of traffic at the bank. People go to the bank quick, in, out, in, out. I used to go to that drive-through all the time.
Yeah,
It sucked, because you had.
going the wrong way, yeah.
But think of the traffic at Little Wendy's.
I never go to Wendy's, so don't ask me.
Yeah, I've never been to that Wendy's either. I don't know how long their drive-through line is, but we believe that we have created a condition where you could fit at least 10 cars in that queue before it even gets out into the driveway.
And I think that's, most relevant situation in the peak summer months, right? So we're talking really July and August, that can become an issue. In my opinion, I think we can put up with it for the time being, given the benefits overall I have teenage kids, and I can attest to the fact that demand is there, and it brings about a sense of cohesion and places to gather and spend time outside the house in a safe space.
And it'll create a work for, they'll need workers.
Absolutely.
Tom,
Any comments from the audience?
Tom can clear a room.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask the question, because I've asked it every time you've come for the last 10 years. And you know the question.
Has it only been 10 years?
I think it's been more.
It's been
Something
more.
like that.
It's been close to 20.
Under the special permit, how many spaces are you required to have, and how many do you have?
We are only required to have as many as we need to satisfy the square footage and residential units that we have. So based on our current demand of the total tenants that we are required to have 1,005 parking spaces. Our current supply, accounting for this loss of one parking space, is 1,056, which results in an excess of 51 parking spaces based on our zoning requirement.
I'll ask it again next year.
I'm happy to answer it every time. Until we get to a point that I'm running a deficit, then we don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right, sounds good.
Does someone want to make a motion to close public comment?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Charlie, would you like to make a motion?
I handed in my motion.
Wait a minute. How about, no, I don't. I have this.
Actually, I'm gonna start coughing, so you read it.
Here you go, Charlie.
Nope, I got it right here.
Somebody there, Bill.
Here we go. Okay, to make a motion relative to 14 Bank Street. Petitioner Mashpee Commons Limited Partnership requests a modification to an existing special permit, SP 8604-024, to allow for repurposing the use of an existing building located on property in the C1 zoning district, map 74, parcel 24, Mashpee, Mass, with the following conditions. Motion. Number one, the board has determined that the applicant meets all the conditions of a special permit modification under Mass General Laws 40A, Section 9. Number two, existing conditions plan. Mashpee Commons Building 2514 Bank Street, Mashpee, Mass., prepared for Mashpee Commons Limited Partnership. Sheet number C-1, C-2, proposed site plan, prepared by BSS Design, Horsley Witten Group, Inc., date November 2024. 3, condition on all town department comments read into the record, including but not limited to the Board of Health. Number 4, the board finds that the modification is presented under condition 5 of the special permit SP 8604-024 to address actual built conditions, relocate certain square footage of building space, approved residential units, and location of parking areas is permitted under the C1 zoning district and does not intensify the use of the site. That's
Do I have a
it.
second?
Second.
Who's sitting on this, by the way?
George.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful evening. I'll see you soon.
Hope something good goes in there.
Where'd this come from?
Scott, you got something to say?
Don't we
trash.
sign this?
Give it a
That's,
bill.
Oh, yeah.
I think I gave that to you, Charlie, to read, didn't I?
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
It's going,
Clean it out. Mary Ann will figure it out.
now
I just
what?
want to go, that's why.
I know.
Wait,
No, I know.
All right.
Motion to close the meeting.
No, we gotta sign stuff.
Sign.
And we have to approve minutes, do we?
Yeah,
Get a
as soon as we sign this, make the motion.
franchise. That's perfect in there.
It's kind of away from the...
Chick-fil-A.
Put you right off.
I don't want to
And
McDonald's.
28.
You and George.
Yeah, I gotta borrow your pen.
That'll be a good location.
Chick-fil-A.
Floyd, Jersey Mike's.
Craziest signatures, and no one can read it.
I can't even write mine, so
Really?
don't worry about it.
I'm not a fan of Chick-fil-A. Yeah, but nobody will be there on Sundays. They won't take up parking
So
spaces
are
on
there any
Sunday.
fast food restrictions in Mashpee?
The
mean, there's-
drive-through.
Ask Dave.
Say that again?
The
Drive-through.
drive-through.
You can't have a drive-through?
Right.
Yeah, the Ways and Wendy's, because that was a,
That's just over the line.
no, it was a Honeydew.
Yeah,
Didn't
they
have a
had a
drive-through.
drive-through
So
before.
they were able to convert it.
Oh, I thought that was just over the town line.
Still Mashpee.
It's still Mashpee.
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the October 9th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Motion
Yeah,
to close?
George. Mike, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, to make a motion to end this hearing?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, everybody.